Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Cross Commission podcast. I am Jake Nazar. I am joined by Saif Fakadu, and also later should be joined by Ryan to break down the Maryland Cuse game. So this will be a fun one. Uh, First full weekend on tap. Weather looks good.
Listen,
I think it's gonna be high 40s here in Baltimore this weekend with the sun out. Listen, it hit 40 degrees yesterday, and I felt like I was in Miami or something.
I was like, we got to revisit the Stringer Bell quote. Like those 40-degree days, I'll take it right now.
All of a sudden, 40-degree days felt like. I took the jacket off on the way home. I was like, wow.
I was walking home from work yesterday, and there was someone grilling in front of like this shop. It was two grills, but it was like 36. I was like, no, I should take a picture. Like, it's like 36 degrees. People grilling out here.
Oh man, it looks good. I don't think there's going to be any weather problems. Certainly, there won't be weather problems on Friday for the big game of the weekend. What do they say? Always 70 and sunny in the dome.
Oh yeah.
So that'll be good. But yeah, Saturday, 49 here in Baltimore. The sun out. That should be excellent. What's it going to be in Princeton? That'll be good.
I think 45, something like that.
43, partly cloudy, partly sunny. Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. We'll take it after the first couple weeks. Hopefully, we get some good crowds out there. Some big, obviously the Dome. Princeton hosts Penn State. Hopkins Loyola is always a good crowd. And Hopkins, we'll talk about that in a minute with the tag game against Towson. They've had two home games, but not really able to host fans. So hopefully they can really fully open the stadium up. For Loyola, I think there's Penn's hosting Georgetown first, or is that? I think so, yeah. Penn's hosting Georgetown? Yeah. First game of the Taylor Ray era. So that'll be exciting. Someone's Army Yale. So a lot of good games on tap, and hopefully some people can get out there for them. We had two games today. One is going final. Sacred Heart beat Wagner 14-10. And another one that is ongoing right now, Holy Cross is up 9-6 on Merrimack. So two games today. There'll be no games tomorrow. Friday, obviously the big game, 6 o'clock on the ACC network, Maryland Syracuse, but there also is High Point UNC, Drexel UMBC, Vermont Queens, UMass Quinnipiac, and Bucknell Robert Morris. All right, Safe. We'll dive in. And we'll talk about the big game. There were a couple games yesterday as well. That kind of will lead us into what we're going to talk about. Lehigh beat Iona 16-7. Michigan beat Detroit Mercy 11-7. Michigan kind of had control of that one the whole way. They were up 7-1 at the half, 9-3 after three quarters. Detroit Mercy made it a little more respectable towards the end. Ohio State Bellarmine, a pretty low-key game. This was kind of close at the half, but Ohio State took it home towards the end. Worryingly for Ohio State, apparently Alex Marinier had to leave the game late in the fourth quarter. Seemed like he had to get carried off, possibly lower leg, ankle injury. Hopefully not serious. That would be pretty devastating, to say the least. Beyond devastating, really, after the Bobby Van Buren injury, if Ohio State had to lose Alex Marinier for significant times. Russell Melendez didn't play again. Seems like it's day-to-day. I don't know, maybe it's an illness type thing. So I don't think it's a long-term injury. It has allowed true freshman Khalif Hawker to get some time at attack, which could be an added upshot if, for when Melendez comes back. Lafayette beat Binghamton 10-9, and then the one we're going to talk about here, in a really good game at Homewood Field. A lot of energy, intensity, a rivalry type feel, as you'd expect, but even for pretty early in the season. Hopkins beats Towson 13-11. Good game that was close pretty much all the way through. Hopkins built an early lead. Towson built a 3-goal lead as well in the second quarter. It was basically all tied up after first, second, and third quarters, but Hopkins grabs the late lead. I think about 6 minutes left. Shuts out Towson in the fourth quarter. and gets a good 13-11 win over a Towson team that I was impressed with as well. And that has high expectations. So, Safe, what were your kind of thoughts? How did you think about the Jays' performance, the win, ahead of another rivalry games like this against Loyola on Saturday?
Listen, Towson Hopkins is always like a dogfight. I mean, I know the overall historical record is pretty lopsided, but under Coach Nadelin's term, like Hopkins Towson's been one of the early marquee games in the Jays schedule. Obviously, a crosstown rival, especially at Towson, is always kind of like really. I always kind of remember like the night games, kind of rainy, ugly, just now and weather. It's just an absolute game. Jays fits. Similarly, games are always close. That Homewood somewhat recently a bit of a dip, but Towson's back. Yeah, I think we kind of didn't have too much to. I wasn't able really to watch too much of the game, given the time, but starting at work. But love to chat, and I was looking at it on the ESPN app, but watching. So obviously, I wasn't surprised by the close nature. It just feels like this rivalry kind of has that in it. But I was really impressed with Jays being able to close it out. At that point when it's 11-11, and it's a jump ball for both teams, and while they did explode in the fourth quarter, being able to keep Towson scoreless, given that Mikey Wisars was having a great day, even Kai Lopez chipped in with a couple goals. This was good to see for Jays. For I was kind of fine the Pete Milliman, early. It's still that's time in his career at top, but 2023, 2024, especially that defense was always kind of nasty and really kind of I felt helped bolster the team. And it was maybe just kind of finding that identity here. Really, impressed with Jay's Jimmy Ayers. Absolutely. This is what I want to see. I want to see some people popping off, every night, 4 or 5 goals and something like that. And Jimmy's definitely been a person who I thought and expected to have a good year, and just happy to see it. Actually coming to fruition. And then when you talk about other contributors, Chuck Rawlson, coming in with 4 total points. Collison, big with the assist. You get the actual buckets, but finishing up with 5 points. I'll love to see that. So this is kind of what I want to kind of see from Hopkins early on before they get into some of the more difficult out of conference. But a lot of goals, or at least movement, maybe not so focused on great to have one player really explode, but that kind of even distribution and really like to see kind of make that gripe in the preseason to get the cumulative stats of 2025, and nothing really popped out. It's startling with Melinda still being a top 3 point getter after not having played the half the season. So this is definitely bright spot, and coupled with the fact that they have a pretty solid defense, and we may have a stud goalie. I'm not ready to throw him up there with Quinn, but Dash Lamont, forgive me, Lamity, Lamity. So hey, starting off, obviously would love to see him go against a team with Georgetown with that type of offense, but Towson has more than a replacement level offense, has definitely, All-American caliber player, Wissar. So it's good to see, Mike, you got 4 goals on him. But still, it's good to see Dash, kind of holding strong. And like I said, blanking them in the fourth quarter, which is, what I would love to see, being able to close and get a W in these kind of tough games. So, as a Jays fan, love to see it 2-0. Obviously, the Georgetown game would have been great as a barometer of against a top 5 opponent, but I'll take this. It's better than 1-1 or whatever. So it's really happy to see.
Yeah, I thought there were some real positives for both teams. I thought, honestly, I thought Towson's defense looked better than I anticipated. They lost some key personnel there from last year, and the defense has been good the past couple of years, but not kind of the vintage Nadelin units we've been used to. The team's kind of been led more by its offense, to be honest with Weishar. Villa Gomez was back, but his first game in a while kind of looked like it, a little rusty. Losing Ronan Fitzpatrick is pretty tough. Big-time goal scorer from last year. I mean, that's 2 years in a row now Towson's lost a key part of the attack at the start of the season to injury. I think they'll probably be fine on that end long term. Weishart played really well, had some success definitely against Kilrain, but Hopkins I think did a decent job of making sure that he kind of he got his, but they didn't let it affect anything else. He got 4 goals, but it was kind of a like in basketball, you're like, all right, he's going to get his 25. Let's not let everybody else feed too, and I think or eat too, and I think they did a decent job of that. But I thought Towson's defense looked good. I think Nyland in goal will be a key for the team this year. I've talked about a lot. Goalie plays kind of been Towson's weakness the past couple years, and even though his numbers weren't amazing, 10 saves on 23 shots, I thought he made some good saves, and I thought he played pretty well back there. I didn't get your point. I don't think Lamity's given up the cage. Like I think it was. I think Jelinas started in some of the scrimmages. I feel like the feeling was probably that he was going to start. So I think when Lamity got the start against Robert Morris, that was a bit eye opening for me. It's like I thought in a positive way, because you want the young goalie to you figure he's only going to get better, and so if he's there starting right away, I think that's a positive sign. And I thought he played really well. Made some good saves. Gave up a few he probably want back as a young goalie, but he also made some tough stops himself. The outlet passing. I mean, he gets that ball out like immediately, I think Quinn said, like a veteran goalie, and it did feel like a deliberate thing. Hopkins wanted to push in transition, get opportunities. I don't think they scored one, but they did get the big one off the faceoff for down low. So there was back to back. There was a between the legs goal, and then I scored one on the crease right after. That was a big goal for Hopkins to tie to 11 after Towson went up right before the end of the quarter. And so I don't think, to me, that was the thing I said was, I think when we talked about this team is like, if he's the goalie on, it's one thing about May 1st, or pardon me, February 1st. The key is that he's the goalie on May 1st, and that he's got the net locked down by the end of the season. And I think if he's where he is right now, look, freshman goalies go up and down. That's just kind of the nature of things. But if this is where he is now, I think that's only a positive thing for the team long term, and especially where they want to go. I thought the defense hung in there. I mean, Towson put a lot of shots on the cage, big volume for like 52 shots. Didn't shoot it great. And Hopkins, I thought some of their shot selection was a little iffy. But I thought the top defense hung in pretty well, which is encouraging. They had to play a lot of defense, but holding Towson to 11 is pretty solid. I think for Hopkins, a positive was this team definitely has some talent, but I don't think they're probably not going to out talent a lot of teams on their schedule. Like that's not how they're not going to beat teams by being more talented, really. Like they might have more talent than Loyola, maybe. They probably have more talent than Navy, but other than that, it's not like they're going to beat teams because they just flat out have more talent. They're really young. They're playing a bunch of freshmen. In 2 years, they might out talent teams, but probably not right now. And I think that was the case last year too. But the problem last year was they didn't do enough little things well to balance it out. Like their man up wasn't great last year. They didn't ride great last year. Goalie play was obviously okay. The difference in this game was one, they were 2 for 5 on the man up, and Towson was 0 for 3. Towson had man up opportunities, especially in that third quarter, didn't cash in. The ride was a big one. Towson blew 6 clears. Several of them turned into goals. They blew one at the end of the game up 2, which I think DeChico then shot into Nyland's stick right after. That should have been the game. Hopkins didn't blow any. Obviously, goalie play plus 3 in saves. If you're +6 in clears and +3 in saves, and you +2 in man up, you're going to win. And maybe that's not going to happen every week, but I think that's a positive. Like that's what they need to. They need to ride. They need to ride better than they did last year, and so far they have. If they get man up opportunities, they got to take advantage. And you hope in goal that should be good. And that's a roadmap to like how do we beat teams that maybe are more talented than us. That's how you got to do it. You got to find different ways to win And last year they weren't talented and they weren't really finding ways to win. And obviously, when you start losing, it's pretty hard. So I think this was encouraging to like, you know, these are some things they need if they're going to pull upsets this year, is to ride and to be good man up, man down, things like that. So that was encouraging. Offensively, like, they've got some playmakers offensively. I mean, Collison is obviously the main guy.
Mhm.
Eiler's a gamer. Rawson's a good player. I think they just need more volume, is what I would say. I think they gotta, they just, it's not. I don't think they're gonna beat teams purely through. Like, I don't know if they're going. I don't know if they're again talented enough to, have like one shot possessions and make that count. That's pretty tough. And they got some good shooters. Chavette was quiet last time, but he can shoot it. I think they kind of need more volume, just get more shots on cage, make the defense work more. Those are the kind of things where if you're running the type of offense they are, where it's more about ball movement and passing and things like that, I think they need more volume shots on the cage to kind of work the defense over, um, and then be able to kind of take advantage of the defense getting tired and things like that. Um, I know this. I know some the Hopkins fans. The second midfield was they kind of went away from that. That was a talking point. I mean, I think they just kind of got to give that time. It's a young group. Here's my thing that I would say. I don't think they're ever going to play Collison. Uh, but I would play him every possession. Like, that's just, if it were me, he'd be on the field every single time, like all the time. I don't think they're going to do that. But if that case, what I would do is I would put him in with the other guys. I would mix it up. So like maybe every other shift he plays one with the second midfield. So
Mm.
at least instead of like putting three like young guys en masse in the field at once, and be like, all right, guys, go make something happen. At least they get to play with Collison, who the defense has to respect, and it
Oh
makes
yeah.
it easy. It makes it easier on them, as opposed to where it's kind of like they're just going out there and they kind of got to make something happen. It's like it's pretty hard for a couple freshmen and I think I got a sophomore in there. So I would just kind of mix it up more as opposed to just because their first midfield's really good. Rawson, Collison, and English. That's a good group, but I think mixing him, and that's probably something that'll happen later in the year, as they figure thing out. But that's what I would do, is try and just make life easier for those guys. It's you know, than kind of asking them alone by themselves to try and make stuff happen when they're out there.
No, I like that. Kind of has something of a gravitational pull to give those guys more space. No, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So that was a good game. Good kind of midweek showing, I thought, for both teams. Safe, do we want to do anything on the poll? I think it
Oh
was
yeah.
pretty. I think it was pretty straightforward. Uh,
Some, guess we go over teams that dropped and any additions. I mean, I think for the most part,
I
top
think
five were the same as before. Pretty much, probably everything, right? I mean,
Cuse moved above Princeton.
Penn State obviously dropped.
Penn State dropped. Well, Penn State was last week. Penn State was 6. They dropped to 12. Cuse moved above Princeton. Me and Adam kept Princeton above Cuse. I mean, I think it's fine. I don't mind it. I don't like to do big movements this when no one's this early when teams haven't really played.
Mm.
And so like that's why I didn't drop UNC, even though maybe you could argue after the game against Jacksonville that was a bit of a iffy kind of performance. But it's like, who am I going to move above them? Cornell hasn't played. Notre Dame hasn't played. Like Richmond played and beat Bobby Moe. So I didn't like big. I didn't like I don't like the idea of teams. I don't like the idea of if you win, you drop below teams who didn't play.
Oh
Even
yeah.
if you didn't play great, like I didn't. Cornell and Notre Dame were scrimmaging. So I'm excited to see them this week. But Villanova's in. They're at 18. Rutgers
First tie.
dropped out.
First tie of the year.
Yes. Duke and Army 9 and 10. They were basically. I mean, they're both high vote was 9. Their both low vote was 11. So yeah, nothing to separate them. On the top 10. Yeah, Army moved up. from 12 to 10. Duke moved up a spot, and Villanova's in at 18. Rutgers dropped out. So Villanova in, Rutgers out, Penn State dropped. That's the big kind of news there. All right. Anything else safe on the poll?
Yeah, I mean, excited for 1 versus 2, obviously, but
Yeah, I was thinking, this is the earliest 1 versus 2 game ever? Got to be, right?
I can think of, yeah.
I can't think of. There's been some in Notre Dame, Maryland last year was like March 1st or something like that. But this has got to be. Most of them have happened in Maryland and Albany played one a couple years back in like 2018, I want to say. That was March 10th. So yeah, there you go. So certainly, this is the earliest. All right, so if we got, I think Ryan's gonna join us here in a little bit. Talk the Maryland Cuse game. Should be exciting. Before then, where do you want to go? Do you want to do Georgetown? Do you want to do Ivy debut? Where would you like to go first, or elsewhere?
No, I was gonna say, I guess we probably just quick hit Georgia just because they haven't played. It's just like one of these bands that are keep the crowd excited. It's like, I thought you were supposed to be on at 9:00. It's like 11:30.
You all wet.
The band coming by, but yeah, no, it's like Georgetown definitely a team that a lot of people have thought highly of, including members of this pod right now, and the one who's coming on soon. We all kind of think it's going to be a good year for Georgetown. Just disappointing, just as a fan, not being able to see them play. Obviously, weather is something out of their control. Even though they did try to make up that Hopkins game, so I give them credit for offering that Friday, apparently, or at least that's what the rumor said. But I have fond memories of them playing Penn. I believe, 2022, they played at Franklin Field. I went to that one. I remember saying, I was like, when's that honeymoon going to end for Georgetown? And it was like that first game. I went to Penn. I was like, there's more Penn fans than I expected a February game. They were definitely booing Georgetown. I was like, oh, maybe the honeymoon's over. But obviously, should be a good game for them. For Penn, it's going to be, my guy, Taylor Ray.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this is gonna be like my Madeline call. It's something that ages like fine wine. But really excited to see him. Have his debut. So just for that game, the players, the coaches involved, the programs involved. I'm torn because I want to go to that Princeton Penn State game, but going to Philly, a little bit longer train, but it's like right from Franklin, the 30th Street Station right to Franklin Field, like a little bit of a walk. With Princeton, I got to go to Princeton Junction unless I drive, which I can do. But
no. Oh, that was we were talking. I remember we were talking. I think that might have been after the show on Saturday. The Princeton Cuse game is at like 4 on Friday. We were saying safe we get a helicopter.
You just get to call the governor. Like, hey, can I use? There is some like a helicopter landing pad across the street from the share where I work. And then I was like, but I don't think that. But I may just end up I have so much time to use. I may just dip out a little bit early and try to get there. But yeah. So like looking forward to seeing Princeton. I'm going to be fun to. Be at 1952. A few games there on the docket that I'm looking forward to. But yeah, Georgetown just quickly on that. Yeah, just excited for them to finally get out there to play. Essentially they're playing an Ivy League schedule themselves. With a later start than everybody. So that's another team to our list, Jake. I said Notre Dame already. We got the 7 Ivies. Georgetown. That was 9. It's over 10% of the league, the Division I. So. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just excited to see them. Georgetown play. I don't really have too much more to add besides, looking forward to it. Anticipation.
Yeah, I wrote down these numbers that intrigued me. In 2025, they scored 9 goals per game in February. In 2024, they averaged 10.5, and in 2023, they averaged 10. Never averaged more than 10 goals. I guess 10.5 is the closest they've gotten to averaging over 10 goals per game in the month of February. 2025, they were 2-2 in February. 2024, they were 2-2 again after they lost their first two. 2023, they were 1-3 after they lost their first three. They beat Princeton. That was after they lost to Hopkins, Penn, and Notre Dame. So for the season, they've averaged, in 23, they averaged 14.8. 24, they averaged 12.7. And 25, they averaged 12.5. So it's improved. I want to see, can they start faster? Can the Connor brothers be acclimated to immediately, kind of the way we expect? Because we talked about the anticipation we have for them. Can they help get acclimated there immediately? I think is kind of what I'd like to see. I mean, that Penn game has been a just grind rock fight for years now. 2025, Georgetown won 8-6. 2024, Georgetown won 12-9. 23,
6-5 there game in there.
Penn won 9-7 in 2023. 2022, the one you went to, 10-8. So the winnings, both teams have not scored above 10 goals. In this match past 4 years. I feel like that's probably going to be similar. I mean, I think Ray defense is his kind of calling card, even though he had some great offenses at St. Joe's. And I just think for Penn, if you're going to hang your hat on anything, I feel like you've got to hang the hat on the defense. I'm not sure if the talent is there necessarily off the bat to be, an offensive-minded team. They were not last year, certainly, and returning scorer is Griffin Skane with 30 points. Second returning scorer, Davis Provost, 24 points. Chris Patterson, 12 goals. Third returning, some decent players here, but you kind of got to – I feel like that's what they're going to have to hang their hat on. I'm sure Ray really would have liked to have Emmett Carroll for one more year. So got to replace some goal. I think that's, it's going to have to be what Penn hangs their hat on a bit. And going to have to be better at faceoffs too. Only won 44% of their faceoffs a year ago. So some things to improve upon. I think Penn will be good. I think they'll be 6th in the Ivy, maybe 5th. I can see them being 5th. I think they'll be better than Brown. But then you have Dartmouth, who I am high on. But Dartmouth loses Mason Morrell. Their goalie who saved 59% last year. So could be a tough loss for them. But I'm intrigued to see Georgetown finally in action. We'll see Penn with Bray, what they look like. All right. Ryan is here.
Time for 5 good minutes, like the old PTI days.
Maryland Cuse, 1 versus 2 in the Dome. For our, again, earliest 1v2 game I think there's ever been. Dome, Friday night. 10,000 seems to be the call. Could be a little lower. It's a Friday. Have to work. Maybe the Cuse fans will take off. ESPN sending the A broadcasting crew. They're sending everybody there. They got Anish, Clark, Quint, and Dana Boyle. So they got, I don't know if they're doing like double sideline announcers, 3-man booth.
Yeah, 3-man booth, or get one reporter with Maryland, one reporter with Syracuse. Like it's Saturday Night Football.
Hey, listen,
Tarico just strolling the sidelines.
The stallion. He got fly back. Is he got fly back from the homeland?
Just all.
Wait, shouldn't he be in Milan? Wasn't he just on NBC 2 hours ago?
He is. Yeah,
he flew away for this game. Yeah. On the Comcast jet.
And then all of a sudden he's back on NBC right after the game.
Probably.
What? Teleportation? I guess. I mean, it's NBC in the Olympics. I'm sure they got some secret teleportation going on.
All right, let's start here. This is the most anticipated regular season game since when?
Maryland, Virginia, 2022.
Me and Safe did like 3 hours on that game alone.
So it's a great year.
Cleared out the paint. I didn't grab this, but in time. We did like a running list of like all the 1v2 games last year.
I'm trying to find it. Yeah, I wonder where
I had it. I think I just did it for the pod. There's some that definitely come to mind. I can name a lot of them off the top of my head. last year, Maryland Notre Dame, that they did have neutral site factor. Early season, definitely. 2024, no, 23. Notre Dame Duke played, I think, at Arlada. That was the year, obviously, the ACC was, running high. Notre Dame won that one pretty comfortably, I think. 22, Maryland, Virginia was just huge. Middle of the season, so both teams were, I think, undefeated. Audi Field, neutral location, like 10,000 people. They had played the championship game the year before. Virginia had knocked Maryland out in 2019. That one, I think, is definitely the biggest I can recall. But there's 2018 was Maryland Albany. That was had some because Albany, that was Albany's big year where they made the Final Four. Trying to think of other ones if you go back. The one I would say the top two, the Hopkins Virginia one.
Absolutely, yeah.
At Klockner in 2012. That was a huge game. It was a rivalry game. Virginia was the defending champion. And the other one is, what was the one at Ryan in 2010?
Was it Virginia?
Was it
Cuse
Notre Dame? Oh, 2010 there was UVA UNC
at the Big City Classic.
UVA Cuse first at Klockner, then UVA UNC at MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, the Big
to
City
open
Classic.
MetLife Stadium.
Yeah,
wasn't Cuse Notre Dame in 2011 a 1-2?
Let me look it up. I feel
Cuse
like
Notre Dame in the Dome 2011.
I mean, that was a huge crowd. I mean, that game's on YouTube if you want to go. Like they're into the second level at the.
You could probably find me in the crowd. I'm in like the first row of by the 30-yard line box on the right hand side.
I might have to do that. 2011 Cuse Notre Dame was ranked number 1, and Cuse was ranked number 4.
Okay, but I think they jumped all the way up to 1 after that game.
Yeah, probably. That was 14,751.
That was the greatest crowd I've ever been in for a non-quarterfinal game.
Saturday night at 7 p.m. Like no duh.
It was.
If this game was on Saturday, if this game was Saturday at 6 p.m., I think they're approaching that number. I think it might be.
It was like beautiful weather out. It's a Saturday night in April, end of the semester. They're all parties after the game and everything. Just what an atmosphere, man.
It's been good. I mean, Cuse is going to have certainly if they win this game, the hype could be off the chain. But Cuse has some big ones. They got Georgetown, the Dome. They got Virginia later in the year. So some opportunities. Well, Princeton's at 1952.
Oh, sorry, I just meant the big games.
Yes, that'll be big.
I was going to say they win this one. That could potentially be a 1 versus 2, especially
could be. Yeah, could be.
Yeah. But yeah, Georgetown, Duke, UVA.
I guess it could be for either, right? Because if Maryland wins, Princeton plays them.
Yeah, you'd figure.
Yeah, that's a 1v2 automatically.
The odds are good. That'll be a 1v2.
What happens if we get into the doomsday scenario where all 3 teams will speed up on one another?
Is that not the most interesting scenario?
It is.
I think that's like
gonna be fun to kind of.
I feel like there's the least the best for me, but the least interesting way this goes is Maryland beats both of them, and it's just a repeat.
Which has been the case for years now.
Well, yeah, that's like Maryland just beats both of these teams the way they beat both these teams, and
then the second least interesting one is, well, if Syracuse beats Maryland, they haven't lost to Princeton in over 15 years.
If Syracuse beats Maryland, I can't. Ryan, you're going to be great. Like on that live episode, I'm sure. Like Cuse Nation, it's just got to be just like let loose, just in the open field.
Oh, I mean,
well, the only thing is, I don't want to press my luck because they got Harvard next week, and they nearly went 0-2 against Harvard last year. So I can't get too unguarded.
I think if they win this game, it's going to be nuts.
One other thing that adds on to the hype is that Maryland and Syracuse men's basketball are both absolute disaster classes. So that helps because both fan bases have gone all into lacrosse at a record pace of how early in the calendar?
I just think it's the 1v2. It's two big brand schools. It's in the dome, which helps. It's a Friday night. That's part of it. Cuse has the hype of like this being the year. Maryland's coming in number one. It's really finely poised, I think, and I think it's
got
also
the TV window.
Yeah, exactly. Which is honestly, like really a hugely underrated part. Is the fact that it's a solo TV window to itself.
Mm-hmm.
If this game is happening 2:00 on Saturday, like it's big, but like everyone's gonna be watching, and so I think that's a big part. I also think at least, and this gets more into the game. So these two teams have played each other now. What? This is the sixth time they're going to play each other in the past 5 years. Yeah, they played every year since 22, and they played twice last year. So that's 6 times in the past 5 years they played each other. So they're more than familiar with each other. The games have followed a pretty similar tenor. However, they've been different when the game's in the dome. The 24 game was a Saturday night, and that game was awesome. And that was probably the closest Cuse has come to beating Maryland under John Tillman. The game went to overtime, back and forth type game. Hugely exciting. And even the 2022 game they played, which considering that was Cuse's worst team ever, and Maryland's best team ever, the game was decided by like 4 goals, and it was pretty close into the second half. So
yeah, and even the games at College Park have been pretty close. Maryland pulled away a bit at the end last year, but Cuse was hanging with them for most of the game.
Yeah, Maryland pulled away in the third quarter.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think the regular season games have been pretty tight, and I feel like it's a lot of Toronto Blue Jays / Buffalo Bills out of Syracuse, where they lost, but they look good doing it, and everyone praises them, but they still lost. I'm saying that because I know Jake would appreciate the Toronto Blue Jay part, but
there's some of that, yeah.
But in all honesty, though, Syracuse did look very good in those Maryland games. They looked better in those losses than they did in a lot of their wins the past couple of seasons. It's a matter of, can they put it together for a full 60 and maybe overtime? The other thing is they got to make sure that can they prevent the mismatches from being completely exploited like they were in the semifinal last year? Because that became a runaway freight train. On the Maryland defense versus Syracuse offensive end. That's the only concern. Like, I think I like the way Syracuse's defense has started this year, and I said that on the Power Hour last week. But it's a matter of the dodging, because against other teams, the ball movement is an absolute weapon for the Orange. And we've seen it the first 2 games of the season. The problem is Maryland is one of the best, how do I put it? Ball defenses out there. Yeah.
They're awesome. Maryland's whole game plan against Cuse is to stop Joey Spallina from distributing the ball. And then it's like, we stop him. You stop the head of the snake, basically. And then you make everyone else below you try and beat you.
Yeah. So the thing is one, can Cuse finally have a dodger against Maryland to pull it off? And B, if Spallina's shut off, can someone else step up? And C, stop doing behind the back passes and shots in desperation when they're down by 2. Just play your normal offense, stop going showboaty. I know that there's a time and place for going behind the back, but sometimes when Cuse gets a little bit behind, they resort a little bit too much to the razzle-dazzle to try and do it as an audible, and when that happens, it probably doesn't work.
They get frustrated. I think they get frustrated very easily against Maryland, and they try and force it. I I think it's interesting. This game has felt the conversation around this game for like 3 years now has been very similar. It's basically been what Ryan just said. Maryland wants to stop Cuse's defense or Cuse's offense rather. Pardon me. And it's about, can Cuse's offense do their thing? Because if Cuse's offense does their thing, Maryland's offense probably doesn't have enough firepower to put up a similar type of number. And this conversation's been who after Spallina can get involved for Cuse and make things happen. And that's basically been the story of the game. What makes this interesting to me, and I think we'll talk about this a little bit just because I want to stay on because Ryan brought up the offense, I figure we'll stay there. What makes this game interesting to me is that now Cuse has to handle Maryland's offense in a different way than they have the past couple of years, because this is the best offense Maryland has had since 2022. Or will be. And I think there's mismatches that Maryland can create offensively that they probably haven't been able to the past couple of years. But to stick with the offensive point, so what's got to be different? Again, Maryland will double pull the midfield. They pulled Spleen and Hiltz last year, and then they'll pull Leo and Sam English. Sometimes they pull Finn Thompson, but at other times they put a shorty on them. They shut off Joey Spleena's distribution, and it's, all right, who can the midfield can beat us? Well, here I think is a key stat. Last year, in both games, Michael Leo had a combined 2 goals against Maryland. Last year against Maryland, Luke Roa had a combined 2 goals. Not going to cut it. In the 2024 game, which went to overtime and Maryland won 13-12, Michael Leo and Luke Roa combined for 7 goals in that game. That's basically the kind of, that's the recipe. So for me, it's what does Cuse do different? Does Cuse move Michael Leo to attack? I would. Now, granted, Leo and Anderson are both lefties, so I guess that makes it a little more of a, tricky. Like you're a little off balance that way. Can Peyton Anderson be a bit of a difference? Because I think Maryland figured out how to stop Owen Hiltz, who was awesome, but as kind of a shooter, he was a bit one-dimensional. Anderson's maybe has a bigger body. You kind of have to respect his dodging more, which goes to what Ryan mentioned. Can they find a dodger? If I were Cuse, I think Wyatt Hoddle is like a big piece for them. His speed, I feel, demands that you need to put a pole on him. And I think if you have him running first midfield, and you have Leo and you have Roa out there, I think Maryland would shorty Roa because I think that's the option. But he's the least threatening option, but he's still very good, and so that at least gets that's more pick your poison. So Cuse has to find something different offensively that will make Maryland defend them differently, approach it differently, get Maryland reacting. I don't think Cuse has really made Maryland think twice about much especially on the defensive side of the ball in the past. Definitely last year in either two matchup. I don't think there was much that Maryland really found particularly difficult, and Cuse has got to find a way to make Maryland's life difficult somehow on that side of the ball. So what's going to be, because that thing is this has been a very familiar kind of game. So Cuse has got to find something that makes this different for Maryland. I think that's putting Michael Leo to attack some. I think that's Wyatt Hoddle. I think there maybe Peyton Anderson. There are different things. I think Cuse has some options, but they got to unlock them somehow to make this not the same thing that Maryland's. Like we talked about it when we did the Power Hour after the semifinal last year. Joey Spallina sticking his shoulder into Will Schaller for 60 minutes. It's not going to be the path to victory.
All right, I could only stick around about another 5-10 minutes, so I guess we'll go. I'll let you guys go into the more minutia a little bit after we're done. But yeah, I think it's a good measuring stick. I think for both teams too. But I think on one hand, it has to feel like those Syracuse Virginia early season games where it's just about let's have a real fun non-con showcase lacrosse game that, will be a lot of fun to watch. Even if you lose, it's going to be a blast to watch. But on the other hand, I think it's just that as a Syracuse guy, you want to finally get past the Maryland hump. And I'd rather get it out of the way in the regular season to give them the confidence than have to do it on Memorial Day weekend, where the difficulty's up tremendously, not just because it's Memorial Day weekend, but as we saw last year, you have Maryland with weeks prep heading into an NCAA tournament game at a neutral site. So
does the game matter more to Cuse than it does to Maryland?
Absolutely.
I think that's interesting. Is that a good or bad thing? I guess is,
I have the beholder. It depends on how the game ends up being.
Yeah, if they win, it's so I think that's interesting. I do think the game matters more to Cuse. I just think it's, as you said, it feels like the last thing they have to do, the last box they kind of have to check is get over this Maryland hump. On the other hand, though, I do think this is a game that Maryland, say if I can maybe get your thought on this. Maryland definitely respects Syracuse. There's no question about that. There's a reason these two teams play every year. The coaches respect each other, I think. Gary Gate obviously has a very long relationship with the University of Maryland, which I think is a big part of it. I think the teams 100% respect each other. But I do think there's a bit for Maryland of... I remember the reaction last year after the game in College Park where Maryland won, and it was... what was it, like 40 degrees and raining? And I think it was either Eric Spanos or Daniel Kelly who was like, it ain't 70 degrees and sunny in College Park. And I think that kind of like gave you the mindset Maryland has of, I think they embrace, I think to like the dichotomy of these two teams, that Cuse is super up-tempo and fast and stylish and extravagant, and it's a rock show, and Maryland is physical and rugged and buttoned up and all that. I think Maryland like takes pride in that in a way, and I do think that they feel they're maybe tougher a little bit, and that when the game gets tougher, I think they feel like they can maybe out tough Cuse. And I wonder how. So like, it's bigger for Cuse. I think it's definitely bigger for the Cuse fans. I'll say that. But I do think there's something to that with Maryland, that they take pride in being able to really make this game, ugly and win ugly, and against a team that is more stylish and more up tempo, and in some ways kind of the opposite of Maryland.
I hear that because I think of it as like, I don't think Syracuse looks at Maryland as a peer and a team that is also like one of these hegemonic teams. But I don't think any Cuse fan or Maryland fan, for that matter, would say the other is a top tier rival. Like with Maryland playing, Virginia. I remember after the final, I've never seen Maryland players that jacked, after they like kind of upset Lars. And like, there's obviously games for the Terps, the same thing with the Orange. But yeah, there is a level of respect. But I also think it's like, class is not the right word, but yeah, there's like two differing, like almost diametric styles where
it's like ideologies. It's like different ideologies.
It's different ideologies.
And capitalism. Like it's not like that stark, but yeah, there's it's a diametric like philosophies, ideologies going to war, and it's just like, I remember that game February 15th last year. Like it was the
earliest games played outdoors.
We did so much research on that. I remember like look at all archives. I got to see like the earliest game that she's ever played outside of the dome, and it was an ugly day. As I know, like Chiefs fans were talking about the weather a little bit and stuff like that, and even Gate to an extent. But Maryland was just like, this is what it was Tuesday, so we were ready for it on Saturday. So like, and I think that is maybe something. I think Maryland kind of fears the explosiveness that Cuse could, like if they just had it all together and the high percentage shots, like, they really could put a number on you. But I think, they kind of feel like when it really comes down to it, like the free flowing, the, high octane offense is not always going to be there in those tough situations. And Maryland's just like built for those type of situations, just the way they're offense. Not that they can't put it in the net, just like 2022 showed. But I think they're like, when it comes to rubber meets the road, and it's like there's not going to be elements as an issue this week. But like 2 minutes to go, tie game, you have to score. As we say, like we love white collar lacrosse, but you can't be doing behind the backs all the time. You just have to find some, a play to make. I think Maryland kind of leans on like we'll be able to do that, but I definitely feel like they're like understand how explosive Cuse can be, especially in the dome. That like if it gets out of hand, like it could get out of hand quickly.
Yeah, and there's just I think say to your point, I think too, like even though they've been playing now for 5 years, I think the biggest rivalry, if there is one between Maryland and Syracuse, is like the message boards more than anything else. Because I don't know, it feels like it's a showcase non-con game, but it still hasn't, I feel, taken off as much of a rivalry. I guess because everything's so grandfathered in on Maryland's end, and so much is grandfathered in on Syracuse.
I think it's the Cuse has got to win.
Yeah,
Johnson has never.
Well, that's part of it too. Yeah,
I think if Cuse wins this one, and you'd imagine that the reaction will be, it'll be crazy. It'll be the whole next week for Cuse will be. I mean, aside from the Final Four, it'll be like the best. I think it'll probably be the most positive feeling Cuse fans have had in years. Then if Cuse wins, can you imagine what the feeling will be like on both sides if they play in the tournament? After that, like that, I think, we always go back to, and I remember we talked about doing this as a pod idea, but we didn't do it. Like 25 like most important or best college lacrosse games of the 21st century. It's not the best game by any means, but I think if you wanted to look at the single most like inflection point game of college lacrosse this century, it's the 2011 Cuse Maryland quarterfinal. It's like ships passing each other in the night. Like Cuse was the team going into like at that point in time. They'd won 5 titles. They'd won like 5 of the past 10, 11 titles, something like that. They were the number 1 seed. No number 1 seed had ever not gotten to the Final Four. Or I think it was the only other time it hadn't happened. Cuse was the team that upset Loyola. So it only happened one time. That was a great Cuse team. That was like 15-1. Was expected to win the title. That was Tillman's first year at Maryland. Maryland was kind of on the outskirts of that Hopkins, Syracuse, Virginia, Princeton type club. And then after that, since that game, Cuse has made 2 Final Fours, and Maryland's made 10, 11, 12, whatever it might be. They've won. Maryland's kind of taking Cuse's place in a way. At the top, it's kind of like the standard program. Cuse was the standard at that point in time. And then you get into like the shot clock thing and everything like that. But Maryland wins that game, and Cuse hasn't beat him since. And the feeling, I think, since then is that Cuse is chasing Maryland. And like this, and this is what made the Maryland-Virginia thing so compelling for a couple years there, was that if Maryland was chasing Virginia, and Maryland, which is usually the hunted, had to be the hunter. So like I think with this, if this is to become a big rivalry as opposed to what Ryan said, right now Mora just feels like a really exciting early season non-con type game. The crowds are really good, especially in the Dome. It's 2 big programs. Cuse has got to win, I think, and that if Maryland has to go hunt Cuse, then maybe after maybe after 1 win it won't be like that, but I mean certainly for this year, if Cuse wins, it might take on that dynamic.
And then just one other point though, it does become important if Cuse beats Maryland though, because on Maryland's end, because they got to turn around and play Princeton the next week. So does the pressure ramp up, even though, yes, it's another program that Maryland's had their way on? If Princeton beats Penn State and Maryland loses to Syracuse, does that shift pressure over to the Terps next week? And then if Princeton wins that one, if Princeton has the confidence of, okay, we could beat Maryland, then what makes us not think we could beat Syracuse? So there's a lot of moving pieces here, I feel like. That are going to come out of this game for the next week. Yeah.
I don't think for Maryland, it would have to be like, they'd have to lose like 3 in a row for it to really be like, okay, we got, because they got Princeton at home, they got Notre Dame at home. It'd have to really be, I think if they lose this one, I mean, unless they get blown out, I don't know, that'd be more shocking. But yeah, I think there's 100%. There's lots of different. That's what I said. the best one for me, like Maryland wins both these games. I'm not complaining. But the least interesting dynamic is probably the Maryland just wins both back to back again, and the most interesting dynamic is certainly that they all circle of fire each other, and because then we have conversation for the next 3 months.
Yeah. The problem is with the circle of fire is nobody can beat Maryland. Princeton can't beat anyone.
It's crazy. John Tillman's 16-0 against Syracuse and Princeton.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 9-game winning streak right now. Maryland has on Hughes, but that was sorry.
No, it's all under Tillman.
2, 3, 4,
yeah, they hadn't beat the last time they played before that. There's a
9-game.
Yeah, last win was the 09 quarterfinals. I was there.
I was talking about Princeton. Sorry, for 9-game win streak against Princeton, but one of those was in 06 during the pre-Tillman. So 8-0 for Tillman, 9-0 streak for Maryland against Princeton. Yeah, and then 8-0 streak against Syracuse. It's an amazing kind of dominant stretch.
And those were the programs that gave Maryland the most trouble in the 90s. Like when you remember Maryland it was always we get caught or not caught up. Pardon me. Dick Adele would get to the Final Four championship weekend, and they'd have great runs, and then they'd run to Syracuse and Princeton, and that was kind of back to reality a little bit.
It really is. Besides that little dip in the 80s and 90s, where Maryland lost 5 in a row to Princeton, and then 5 of 6 to Syracuse. Everything else has just been kind of the Maryland show in the series.
Yeah, it changed in the 80s and 90s, and that's again when Maryland kind of became more of that outskirt, like 6 to 10 type program than top 5. I want to talk about, because I think this is the other interesting thing about this game.
I'm just going to say 5-minute warning because then I got to duck out.
All right, we'll go. Yeah, we'll go. Again, the last couple of years about this game has been really, it feels like everything we talk about is Cuse's offense versus Maryland's defense. Like that's really always the kind of conversation, because Cuse has this elite offense, and they're usually able to kind of impose their will on a lot of teams, and Maryland kind of chokes them out a bit, even more so maybe than other teams. What makes this game really interesting to me is, I think just as important potentially is Maryland's offense versus Cuse's defense. Because Cuse's defense obviously has been off to an awesome start this year. They held St. Joe's to 2 goals. What'd they give up against BU? 8, 9? Something like that. And Cuse's defense was really good last year. And didn't play poorly against Maryland in either. I mean, the first half of the game against the Final Four, yeah, they didn't play great. But they held them to
6 goals against BU, 2 against St. Joe's, by the way. I was just confirming that for you.
Yeah, there you go. Like the first game was 11-7, and then they lost 14-8. Final Four game. Obviously, yeah, they lost. They were down like 8-1 at halftime. But now I really think Maryland's offense poses some real different difficulties for Cuse, because Cuse has to handle Maryland's offense just a different way. When they played in the Dome a couple years ago, I remember it was Braden Erksa and Riley Figueres, and Erksa had a lot of success, and Figueres has covered Erksa for most of the past couple of years. Billy Dwan's kind of taking Eric Spanos, and you kind of know about that. Now, with Leo Johnson and Chris Lyons in there, it's a different dynamic. I think Figueres has to cover Leo Johnson, because I think Leo Johnson might be Maryland's most threatening Dodger. And so if it's still Spanos on Dwan, which makes sense. With Spanos' size, you want Dwan's physicality to go up against him. Figueres, I think, has to cover Leo Johnson. And then it gets into, all right, who do you then put on Erksa? Who teams, I think, had figured out a bit, but when they could put their number 1 or number 2 pole on him. But now if he's getting the number 3 pole or an LSM, we kind of saw this a bit we talked about some Power Hour. He had a really good game against Loyola, just picking his spots, and he racked up like 4 assists. But this could be a game where he could maybe flex his muscles more as a Dodger. Then you have Chris Lyons, who Loyola put a shorty on a little bit at the start of the game. That didn't work. And Chris Lyons is a elite shooter, obviously, and goal scorer. That's kind of how he made his name at Yale. But I think you got to put a pull on him. So I think you have to put your third best cover guy on Urksa. Mike, that beat Chuck Kaczynski, Syracuse's LSM, and then Beck, the third long pole they have. He might have to go on Lyons. But now now it's kind of pick your poison type, mode. If you're Cuse, and you really got to think about the matchups. And Maryland has avoided dodging Syracuse's poles, especially last year. It was all about going at the shorties. And I don't think they really will try to dodge Figueres or Dwan too much. Though I don't know, Leo Johnson is a bit like that dude's. He's like 5'9", 5'10". I think Quinn said he wears a baggy jersey, and that dude just plays with his hair on fire. I mean, Loyola, he was jaw jacking with Loyola after like every goal. So he might be fearless enough to just go to the rack. I think that's an interesting thing. Cuse is obviously. I do think in the end this game's going to come down to whose shorties hold up better. I just think both teams are so strong on both sides of the ball that it's probably going to come down to who can find the right matchups against the short sticks. That's tough. And I think for Cuse, it's how do you the best way that teams have defended. So that was this. Who's the team that has defended Maryland the best the past couple of years? Had the most success against Maryland?
Notre Dame.
Michigan.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, it's Michigan. And what does Michigan do when they play Maryland? Well, they play absolutely glacially slow on off. How does Michigan, what have they got against Maryland? One, on defense, they play really well tight. But also on offense, they play glacially slow. They chew clock. Here's a great stat for you. Opponents against Maryland last year. Take a guess here. How long into the shot clock did they wait to take their first shot? On average.
20
This is
seconds.
Michigan, right?
No, this is all opponents. Michigan's the best example of this because they had the most success. But how long did they wait into the shot clock, full 80, to take their first shot?
30 seconds left.
30 seconds left? Or 30 seconds in or 30 seconds left?
Okay.
NCAA average, right?
Yeah, 40. Yeah. I'm going to say 40 because get it over, then actually get into offense. Yeah, 45 seconds left in the
40,
clock.
yeah,
So
45, I would
35
say.
seconds in and 45 seconds left.
On average, teams took 43 seconds to take their first shot against Maryland last year, which means there'd be 37 seconds. More than half of the shot clock had expired by the time they took their first shot. That was how many teams are in D1?
It says 74, I think.
77, I think.
Find it while you bam. Where?
All right. The
77.
average. There you go. Teams, Maryland's opponents' time to shot was 76th out of 77th in Division I last year. No one played against Maryland. Their opponents were basically their opponents' offenses were basically the slowest offenses in D1 when they played Maryland. And that's the idea of how you kind of slowed them down was chew up clock, shorten the game, basically do what Maryland kind of does in play at their own game. Because then Maryland's offense, which wasn't super explosive, has to be hyper efficient because you're not giving them the ball a bunch. You're basically saying we're going to slow the game down. We're going to play really slow on offense. We're not going to allow any transition. And we're going to make Maryland's offense, which is good but not great, have to be so efficient to get to 12, 13, 14 goals. This has been kind of how you stop them. Cuse can't do that. Cuse cannot go in there and be like, you know what? We're not going to shoot until there's 40 seconds. If Cuse waited until there was 35 seconds on the shot clock to shoot in the dome, the fans would lose their mind.
Right. Yeah, you can't do the Joey Spallina hang out behind X till 10 seconds left every single possession.
Joey Sankey just throwing for 3 minutes back there. Yeah, you can't. And so that's what's interesting is that Cuse cannot play Maryland that slow. They can't just be all right, this is how teams beat Maryland. No, Cuse has to be Cuse.
Yeah.
And so
be yourself, play your game.
They have to play fast.
Because I'll say
Go ahead.
Yeah, because the other team that beat Maryland last year, Cornell Big Red, did they stick away from their identity in the national title game?
That'd be interesting. Let me see the. I'd like to know the numbers for Cornell. I mean, that was look. It's Memorial Day, so the game's always slower on Memorial Day. In that game,
but I know less scoring, but in terms of their identity in that game, they go too far away from it.
No, yeah. And so there's just, I think, to what Ryan you said at the start, this is the key. Cuse has to just be more buttoned up. Maryland really has had success in transition against Cuse. Part of that is because that's what Cuse does. They try and take theirs. They got to be more buttoned up on the back end and trying to not allow Maryland to get 2 to 3, a couple transition goals. And then they just got to hold up and win some matchups. Their shorties just have to be stronger, and they have to find some matchups against Maryland that, they can exploit. So basically, it's I remember last year my whole thing was Maryland was just better than Cuse. Well, Cuse has got to be better. I think that's what makes this game fun. Is I think at the end of the day, you just got to outplay them. Both sides. Sides.
Yeah. Before I go, one other thing that I think, just real quick concern that I think you've had at the beginning of the game last week for Maryland. Maryland's got to make sure that they tidy up, and usually in big games they do, but the clearing, I think, was your concern last week. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on. Conversely, if Maryland throws on some surprise 10-man rides, even though Maryland generally doesn't do the 10-man ride, how can Cuse get the ball over? Because that was an adventure against BU. And it was looking like it was going to be an adventure at first against St. Joe's, but then they figured it out pretty quickly. But, yeah. Otherwise, before I go, until Syracuse beats Maryland, I'll pick Maryland to win. But I think it's going to be one of these showcase-type games, 1 or 2 goal game. Both teams look good in the process type of games. Maybe not satisfying on the Cuse end if they don't come out on top. But a good building block for this Harvard-Princeton-Penn stretch. And maybe the seed of belief for a rematch might be planted. But for the time being, I'll go Maryland in this game. Before I go, I'll also say when you guys go back to talking Penn State Princeton, I think that's very intriguing too, because we've seen the teams with sea legs have fared pretty well against the teams that are playing their first game. But now you're flipping it on the head with Penn State after the loss to Nova, having to go onto a road against a team that beat them in their house last year. So I think that's very fascinating. I think if Princeton gets the sea legs early, that could be a runaway win. But if it takes a while and Penn State's sea legs are there, that could be another thriller between the two of them.
I'm trying to figure out the Maryland is a 1.5 goal favorite against Syracuse. I think I'd probably take Maryland at 1.5. Not by a lot more, probably 2 or 3, but I think at 1.5 I'd probably take Maryland. But
I'd stay far away from the spread and just go straight up.
Yeah.
I am not touching that 1.5 goal spread with a 1,000-foot long pole.
Safe, what do you think?
I wonder if it'll go down. I wonder if there are some people who are like, oh, we'll get a couple points as well. And then eventually maybe I pick them or one. I could see.
I guess here's the thing.
I can see Syracuse money coming in a little bit.
How much of this, if this game is in College Park, do we think it's how many goals is Cuse getting for home field here? Because I think the Dome is the true. I mean, I think the Dome is worth 1.5, 2 goals itself. That's not to say if Cuse wins this, it's just because it's in the Dome. But it's I think the Dome is.
I think if it's in College Park, it's 2.5, and I still wouldn't touch that spread with a 1,000-foot pole.
If it was a College Park, we go 3.5, 4.
4.
What was the final score last year's game again? It was
College Park 11-7, 14-8, and 11-7.
As I say, I think they kind of got this 1 goal going 2024. But yeah, I think they use a lot of like recent history.
Here's one. I'll say this: over under 24. I'm going over.
Over.
I think over. I think the winning team in this game has 15 goals.
I think Maryland's going to surprise people who, just thinking of Syracuse as the high octane offense. I think Maryland. I've already planned in my flag that has echoes of 2022. So I might as well just go all in. But yeah, I feel like with this kind of offense, additions of the transfers, like
it's the deepest. Not just the deepest. This is the best offense they'll have since 22, easily. Like they're just much more dangerous in such a different way.
And we always talk about, like, if you're getting the second poll or third poll when you were getting like the first, like, it just makes your life so much easier for Braden and Spanos. Like, yeah, I think it's gonna be special. Yeah. So yeah, I think if it's 24, it's the over under. Like, yeah, I can see that smashing.
Penn State Princeton, by the way, is Princeton -4.
I take Penn State against the spread, but if Penn State's looking like they did the first 2 weeks, if they're not careful, if Princeton's ready to go off the word go, that could get ugly.
Here's my worry: is that I think Princeton, the best version of Princeton, I think beats Penn State by 4 or 5. Like, I think the best version of Princeton is like good enough to win this game. I just kind of worry with Princeton a bit of kind of my thing I've talked about of like, Princeton doesn't need to be the team that we saw at the end of last year. That's not the best version of that Princeton team. It's fun. It was amazing to watch, but it's not.
But it's not sustainable.
No, and it's like.
And you saw that again, the 2 games against Cornell, the game against Syracuse. Their offense can absolutely get into a boat race. The problem is that opens the door to them losing in a boat race.
Yeah, it's like Princeton offense is elite. Cuse's offense is also elite. No one was outscoring Cornell last year, so that was just like not like wasn't the way to go. But it's like I look at Princeton like you have a great goalie, you have a great offense, you have some good defensive midfield unit. Why are you trying to win 16-15 every game? And now ideally they figured out the face-off with McMeekin, who played better at the end of the year. That was part of it. I get it a little bit more. It's like when you're not successful on face-offs, you kind of have to do some things a little differently. But if you have a good face-off group, like I looked at some of the numbers last year. Look at the number of shots that Crosse faced in some of these games. Against Cornell, where I got it? In the Cuse game, Cuse had 32 shots on goal. Against Cornell the first time, 32 shots on goal. I think it was over 30 both games against Cornell. This game last year, Penn State Princeton, granted that was in the bubble, 31 shots on goal. Crosse faced on average last year, I think 26 shots per game. That's a lot of shots to face, man. Eric Peters in the Final Four year faced 24. It's not a big jump, but I think if you get it down to like him facing 23 shots per game, somewhere like that, with how good a goalie he is, I think that's perfect. I think that's exactly where you want to live. And so I kind of worry. Does Princeton, because Penn State's problems look like they're on goalie play and maybe a little bit defense. You kind of take that away a little bit if it's up and down. And then the other one I kind of worry about, Safe, you were at this game, I think. The one they played against Maryland in 23, where like the hype from the Final Four year, it was everyone was jacked up. Princeton was too jacked up because they took like an unnecessary roughness 2-minute penalty, like 2 minutes into the game.
All right, I got to get going, but those are my 2 cents on that. So listen to what you guys had to say a little bit. So thanks for joining. By the way, breaking news for you, Jake.
About what?
Orioles finally did something.
Did they sign Zach Gallen?
No, they signed Chris Bassett.
Okay, I'll take it. All right, it's not. I'm not like over the moon with it, but it is.
It's something.
Yeah, like it's a arm that they needed. So I will. I'm at that. Maryland also just upset Iowa, so that's kind of like light in the, for the bad basketball season. Cuse fans, I mean, both of us want the basketball season to be over, but
Yeah.
The Cuse one. As soon as I saw that thing about Carmelo's kid like sitting on the bench the whole game,
Getting
like,
sick, getting on the bench.
I
I mean,
was
the
like,
guy's not going to kid's not going to transfer because Carmelo just loves it. The
well, no.
university
Also,
too
he's
much.
not going to transfer because they're probably going to fire the coach.
Right. Right. So, well, at least it's lacrosse season. All right. I'll see you guys around.
All right. Take care. Thank you, Ryan.
Hey, bye.
You're welcome. Take care, y'all.
All right, Safe. Maryland Cuse, what you got?
John Tillman covers.
I'm going to say Maryland 15-13. We also didn't talk about look, there's so much of this game to talk about. The face-off battle. Maryland with kind of, John Mullins. John Mullins a beast for Cuse. And he's a big body, physical guy that I think Maryland didn't quite have that kind of, but Dodge now I think has the physical kind of dynamic to kind of match up against him. Look, if Cuse is over 50%, I think they're living good. I think they're in a really good spot, especially if this is a high-octane offensive game. I do wonder about maybe Maryland having two face-off guys they can throw at him. Does that maybe wear him down a little bit?
Yeah.
I feel like that's something to like you kind of got to use that to your advantage.
And just keeps their own guys fresh for the fourth. Like, I mean, we love Big Luke, but like a little bit like love to also see maybe get a breather. Just so dominant's hard to put. It's kind of like Petey LaSalle, like large road Petey all the way to the finish line,
like a rented mule. Large road Petey, like those like old stories about like old baseball managers with their pitchers. Like, Skip, my arm's feeling a bit. Are you dead? No. All right, go back.
You give me 6 though, right? Yeah. I remember the one game was 223, 24 maybe. They're playing North Carolina, and Peter's like on one leg. I was like, why do they have me? You're like, Virginia needs to win this game. That's what he has to be out there. So no, I feel like being able to just wear down Cuse's face off if it's have a two-headed monster and just being fresher for that fourth, like that could be like a little bit of the difference. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, you're right. If Cuse can, because it just helps them, because Maryland may not be deliberate, because especially with this offense, but they're not trying to shoot it with 50 seconds left on the shot clock if they don't have to. But like if Cuse is able to get the ball back after a goal, get like maybe 55% or just over 50, then I think that at least that lets them play their game and prevents Maryland being able to occasionally go to the back-to-back and like eat up a minute and a half, 2 minutes of clock. So more shots, as kind of said, like it's kind of Cuse's game that they don't want to really slow it up. So being able to control possession after a goal, get like maybe 52, 55%, like I think that they will take that.
Yeah, and then goalie play. Rupel's got big game experience. It is his first time in the Dome, though. The Dome is a different kind of environment. I mean, he did play indoors last week, so that's a kind of get acclimated a little bit to it. Jimmy McCool's been great for Syracuse. So look, I think the game's can live up to the hype, the excitement. I think even if the game winds up getting away, like one team kind of pulls away, I still feel like it'll be an offensive type. It won't be like Maryland winning last year, like 14-8. It'll be like one team goes on a 3-4 goal run towards the end. It just, they win by 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like at least it's going to be an explosion type, game, highlights, things like that.
I could definitely see like a third quarter being the separator, like after a close first half, whatever team makes the better judgments goes on that 3-4 goal run. That just ended up being the separation in the game, because maybe they exchange goals the rest of the way, but never able to like overcome that gap. But yeah, it could definitely just be like that one burst. And that's why I think you're saying, like, that Maryland has that thing in the back of their head, like, maybe we can out weight room Cuse if needed, or out tough them. But like it's also in the back of their head, like, this is kind of really explosive offense. If they could be the one to go on that 3 or 4 goal spurt, and then with the Dome crowd, like it definitely could be raucous atmosphere.
All right, so do you want to do anything more on kind of the Ivy debut, or maybe Virginia Richmond?
Touched on Ivy just because looking forward to going to a few 1952 games at 1952 Stadium. Probably this weekend being one of them. I was just looking at the time. I was like, do a cheeky doubleheader, drive to Princeton, drive back home, jump on the train, get to the 3:30 start.
I don't know how long is the train from?
It is. It's actually 45 minutes from Trent to 30th. Like into Tennessee is like 55, but like once I'm at 30th, like Franklin Field's like a 10-minute walk. So,
right. So how long does it take you to get from out of 1952 back home?
No, there's often a pretty much run every weekend. So yeah, it's pretty much 25 minutes from the stadium. Either I park at Nassau Street or use the actual parking at the stadium. Yeah, pretty much 25 minutes.
All right, let's add a little bit for game traffic. Let's add 20. That'd be 2:45. Then get home to, you said it's 45 minutes from.
Yeah, if the train's perfect,
add an extra 10, get in the train till 5. We'll say leave at 3. I don't think you'll be able to get there for game time.
Definitely, I don't think it. Definitely, it's not. Only possibilities is like not blow up, but like something to like leave Princeton. Like
maybe ask Madeline for the police escort. I'm a big fan.
Money Mitch comes in, like, gives me the golf cart.
I'll ride with you.
Gets you right to the secret helicopter pad.
Oh man.
Yeah. But no, probably didn't be too much. But I was thinking of two doubleheader of Ivy games. But yeah, just excited for the Princeton, Harvard. Really, Harvard. We got expectations. Just kind of a personal thing with Penn with Ray. Much I like him. Looking to see them. Harvard, just like just my. Another one of my favorite teams. Like, just love to see them like kind of blow up. It's Yale going to come back. The whole conference has a lot of storylines. Dartmouth is this their year to like kind of really like break into the top 3, maybe even, or at least make a serious run for the conference tournament. So it's a lot of storylines. Really, Brown to an extent, but like at least 5 of the 7 teams I definitely am interested in. Yale, love to see them just be a big force. It was good for the game when they were good. So yeah, just all in general, the conference seems to be on an upward swing, and just a lot of interesting, fun teams with different dynamics and styles, and it's kind of what we like.
Yeah.
Diversity is thrown out around a lot, but it really means it when it's true. It's a kind of Simpsons line. The word hero is thrown around a lot. It really means. But yeah, like it'll be a fun conference, and we've kind of said this really maybe is the Ivy's time. Maybe we're going to be saying it's Ivy the best conference, not just a big 3. Kind of like to quote Kendrick, blank the big 3. It's just big me, So like.
I think it's an interesting year because I do think that it's early. I wonder if the Big Ten, maybe just with Ohio State's injuries potentially, and then maybe if Penn State's a little bit behind what we thought, if maybe the Big Ten isn't quite as maybe good as anticipated. I mean, I was pretty confident. I felt like 4 bids was kind of really on the table. Maybe it's closer to 3. Again, it's very, very early. The ACC we have to see. Been a positive start, but I mean, we haven't seen Notre Dame yet, obviously, and Duke. We talked kind of Duke's deal ad nauseum. So I think it'll be a little bit more until we learn a couple more weeks, so we learn more about these ACC teams. So maybe there's an opportunity there for the Ivy. I think you're right. It feels like there's kind of the pecking order you can kind of debate it at every kind of level. Like Princeton is the favorite, and I think they should be. But also, as much as we talk about Princeton being Cuse and Princeton being Maryland, man, Princeton hasn't beaten Cornell in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been since 2019, I think, or 2018, I want to say. Like Connor Busick's never lost to Princeton. And so that's a kind of serious thing to sort of look at. Like Cornell definitely, I believe, has that feeling of, yeah, maybe we're a step behind to start, and we do lose some pieces, but the Ivy still runs through Cornell, and Princeton's got to be able to go improve it, and they get them at home, so that'll be big. But they're definitely a feeling Princeton's got to prove that a bit and beat Cornell and knock them off the top spot. And I think Cornell's still got there's still tons of firepower on that team. I mean, they still Goldstein is a first team All American type guy. Willem Firth at attack. Rowan Nuri, who we talked about Adams freshman of the year pick. I do have some questions about their attack. I wonder about the size a bit. Like Goldstein is a small guy. Now, granted, he is exceptionally fast. Might be the fastest player in the country. But it's still like you always mention with like the the matchup you get. It's one thing going from being the shotgun with CJ Kirst to now being you're the guy teams fixate on.
Oh,
And especially at that, like CJ Kirst took a lot of the hits. He took a lot of the beating because one, he's a big dude who can handle it. But because he's the guy they focus on. And so Goldstein's the guy who's going to get, I mean, it's different in the Ivy a bit compared to the Big Ten, the ACC, with some of these like really super. I mean, you still see it in the Ivy too. Like some of these super physical 6 foot, 190, 200-pound long poles. I mean, does he pose a dynamic against them? With his size, 100%. Or not, pardon me, with speed for sure. But man, he's gonna take some licks. And that's different. Willem Firth, smaller guy too. He's gonna take his licks. Nuri is the one where I wonder if he can really emerge. Ideal size, 6 foot 190. Again, super talented kid in the mold of these kind of Cornell attackers we've seen. I wonder if if he can really take off by the end. If he could maybe alleviate some of those issues. Like, on paper, the attack unit that they've got has potential to be like right up there with Cuse's and Princeton's and Maryland's as super, super dangerous. I feel like they're going to have to maybe win some more games with defense, and we saw them do that in the tournament. I think that was what propelled them to the title, was that they were able to win some of those lower scoring games. But now you do lose Jordan Stevens as defensive coordinator. Wyatt Nust is gone in goal. So they still got some stuff. They still got Staub back there. They still got some really important pieces. Cascadin at the faceoff die, I think, is big for them. He emerged as a real weapon last year. So I think that'll be important. So yeah, like there's that at the top. I think Harvard Yale really in the middle right there is a big sort of battle among those two teams, because does feel like this is a big year for Harvard, but you also kind of look at Sam King's gone, and like if Harvard can't figure out last year Harvard's offense was so good, it kept them in games even despite the faceoff problems. Like, if they don't get any better at faceoff, can they afford to get much worse on offense? Like, I don't think so. I feel like it's like they gotta be. I mean, if they get better on faceoff, great. Like, there you go. Okay, we've solved the potential problem. But if they're not any better, like the offense has to be as good as they were. That's what won them games. And then for Yale, I think Yale's gonna be better defensively. I think it's a matter of like how much better do they have to be. I think if Yale gets to like top 20, 25 defensively, I think they're a good team. I just wonder, like, I feel like to make the NCAA tournament, they got to be like top 10. Like, I think they got to ride with their defense because they lost Johnson, they lost Lyons, a lot of pieces offensively. It feels like they're going to have to do it old school Yale and really ride with the defense. But I don't know. I'll say it like this. I think Yale, if I was picking the Ivy order, let's do this. I'd go Princeton 1, Cornell 2. I'd go Yale 3, Harvard 4. Man, it's tough. I like Dartmouth a lot, but the goal, losing Mason Morrow, he was a big part of that team last year. How good he was in goal. I'll go Dartmouth 5, Penn 6, Brown 7. But I do think that Penn Dartmouth could easily fluctuate. I think the top 4 is pretty likely, those 4. But I mean, if Harvard or Yale don't get better, I mean, if Yale doesn't get any better, they could kind of fall back into that. And if Harvard gets a little worse, maybe there's an opportunity for Penn or Dartmouth to kind of climb up a bit. Well, how would you have it?
Princeton 1, Cornell 2. I go Harvard 3. I kind of went there in the preseason.
Yeah.
Go back down. I went Penn 4, Dartmouth 5, Yale 6, Brown 7.
Yale 6. Man.
Okay, well, Yale 5 then against Dartmouth.
No,
But,
I mean, listen, I don't want to talk you out of it.
I feel, kind of. Yeah, I'm going on limb with the Penn, but yeah, to see Yale being 4, so we'll move 5 at the hedge, but Dartmouth 6 and Brown 7.
All right. I respect it. All right, Tiff. I'm going to throw some lines at you. We're going to pick some games, and then we're going to get out of here.
Okay.
All right. Maryland, Cuse. We both said Maryland cover and win.
John Tillman covers, yep.
Penn State, Princeton. Princeton -4. What you got?
Princeton wins but does not cover.
I think I agree. I think 4 is kind of where I would shoot for. I think Princeton wins like 14-10.
Yeah, I see that.
If it goes any higher, I would take Penn State. If it goes any lower, I'd probably take Princeton. I think it's right on the, line right now. Over under 25.5. I feel like I'd go under. Maybe, I don't know. It could get goal scoring. It's first
day. Yeah.
thing I would say it's first game outdoors for Penn State. I don't know if that's good or bad. Usually it's when a team goes indoors to outdoors, there's a bit of a fluctuation. It's the first game for Princeton. So we'll see. I think I might go under, but I'll go Princeton. Yale versus Army. Army is -3.5.
I think Army covers.
Okay. I would say I'll go Yale covers. Army. I'll go Army wins, but it's a close one. I want to pick Yale, but I think Army's got some games under their belt. I really liked Army's win over Rutgers. Kind of how they leaned on their defense. Sean Burns playing really well, so I'll say Army by like 2 or 3. Let's do. What else we got here? Virginia Richmond. This game is at Richmond. Virginia is -1.5.
Richmond covers.
Do they win?
Richmond covers. I think they lose in overtime, maybe by 1. But Richmond covers. It's one of my classic Virginia money. I do the Virginia money line. I got Richmond cover, and I love it when it hits. Like it's just wonderful. It's just like it's such a surgical but yeah. I think UVA still holds at least the crown for the block or for the state. But Richmond does what Richmond does, really tight game. Maybe just doesn't make one play, and Virginia steals one.
Oh man, I did like Virginia's offense in that game, but I wonder about. Richmond wins.
All right, let's go.
I just think I don't know. I like that offense. Like I was there against Bobby Moe. It was. I mean, listen. It was. They should have won comfortably, and they did. But O'Neal played well. Sheridan played well. I just look at Little John back there. Like they've just got. I think they know they are on the offensive side of the ball, which I think they can kind of. I'm curious about for Virginia if John Schroeder doesn't play. Didn't play against Colgate. I think about Virginia face-offs. Kind of think like early. Virginia was kind of really sloppy in that game last year against Richmond early in the year. Can't care if that continues. I don't know. I like the Spiders. It'll be close. That'll be a close game for sure. I think I do think that's a real, like you always like to say, barometer type game. Because if Richmond wins that game, I think you can be like, okay, like we're 2-0. We beat them. We got Cornell and we play Mercer and Lehigh. We should take care of that. And then it's Cornell and Georgetown, and that's like our. If we're going to be an at-large, like that's our seat. Like if we're going to be a top 8 team, that's right there. You know, we gotta. If they lose this one, I think it's kind of like maybe because like when Virginia too, like when Virginia's lost to Richmond, it's been a barometer. 22 they lost. Granted, that was the kind of injury year, but guys got hurt in that game, and that was kind of the okay. This team just doesn't have quite enough gas in the tank for another run. Last year they lost and they missed the tournament. They beat them in 24 and 23 and 21 and 19, and they made the Final Four. So I think I'm not saying if Virginia wins, you're going to go to the Final Four, but I do think if they win, it's like, all right, Virginia's. It's always a good way of looking at it. It's one win you didn't have last year that you do now. Like, you're +1 in the column, basically. And so I think it's definitely a good barometer type game. Anything else on there we haven't looked at? Hopkins Loyola safe. Hopkins is -2.5.
Is that really right?
No, Homewood.
Is that Homewood? Hopkins wins. Does not cover. I think it's maybe be the under. Like see like an 11-9 game.
I think I agree with that. Yeah. Some other good ones. Cornell Albany's at 1:00. I'm excited to see that one. Obviously, it's Cornell's first. Albany, high on them this year. Cornell's getting -5 in that one. Providence Harvard. I think this is a kind of big spot for Providence if they could beat Harvard, continue the Big East a strong start. That would feel like they probably would be ranked if they win that game. And that would be kind of, I think, a real positive kind of start for. I think Providence needs a big win. I think they did. They beat Denver last year, but Denver wasn't, as we always like to say, a good win, wrong year. I think they need a real kind of put your mark down kind of win. They've improved, but they need a big one. The slate really. I like the way the slate is kind of laid out. We get the big game Friday night. We get 12:00. We get two good ones, or a lot of good ones at 12. Penn State, Princeton, Yale, Army, Virginia, Richmond. But then you get Hopkins, Loyola's at 1. Cornell, Albany's at 1. Kind of wish those were at 2, but they would get. Providence, Harvard's at 2, and Georgetown, Penn at 3:30. To finish it up, and then Sunday, Dartmouth at BU. I think that's an interesting one Sunday. Could be a good opportunity for Dartmouth, and UNC's got a double dip this weekend. They play Iona Sunday, and they play High Point on Friday. All right, Dave.
Sure.
Good stuff. We will be back for the Power Hour Saturday. Might have to ask Ryan. I think. The game might be Syracuse Maryland might be 2/10 for a watch along.
I would just because it's second half watch-a-thon. Like I was just like, why not?
I'll ask him. I wanted to ask him while he's here. I'll ask him when we get off, and we'll see. But I wonder if it might just be a little too tension high. But we'll see. I'll ask him. We'll check that out. But we will be live Saturday for the Power Hour, probably after Georgetown Penn goes final. So maybe. Probably like last week we went 5:30, probably 5:36. What we're looking at, so that kind of range again. A lot of viewers on this past week's show, so we thank you for tuning in. Once again, make sure that you subscribe. YouTube.com/lacrosse-commission. This video will be up on YouTube when it goes up. We've been getting some a lot of good numbers on these video pods as well, so we're happy about that. Smash the like button. If you're listening to these the audio way, the old-fashioned way, no problem at all. You can still do that there. Ryan will have it up tomorrow morning. But yeah, join us Saturday for the Power Hour. Participate in the chat. We got an active listener, Chip. It's always fun. Get people to discuss lacrosse, talk these games, banter. So we love that. And yeah, subscribe, smash the like button when these videos go up. Follow us on Twitter at college_cross, and we'll see you out there.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Take care, folks.